Hi there Aquarius, it's August 2022, would you believe? I'm Dodici from astrology.com.au, and I've got a really interesting month ahead for you in my forecast because although I'm not going to animate the chart this month, I want to just focus on especially a few areas. The start of the month here, we see this powerful conjunction of Mars, Uranus and the node. That conjunction gets more and more intense up until the 2nd, when Mars slams into abrupt and unexpected Uranus. So some interesting goings on in your family life, especially with the maternal side, because the 4th house is your mother. And this can also disrupt, apart from your family life, your inner peace and equanimity. You've got to be very, very careful of that. We see here that's made all the more troublesome by the fact that there's a square aspect between one of your ruling planets, Saturn, which is now also retrograde in your sun sign. Notice here, when you look at these red lines here, these are what we consider challenging aspects. And here we have what's called a T-square. You can mark this opposition aspect here to the nodes and then mark that as a T. So Saturn is pivotal in this combination, but this is not on a global level. This is not at all a savory sort of aspect to have. It's going to cause some dramatic problems. There may be earthquakes or earth-shattering developments of a global nature. We just had an earthquake here in the Philippines today. That, I think, is a little bit of a preview of what's coming in the next period of time this month in August. Actually, that was last month. I'm doing this ahead of time, so I'm sort of ahead of myself a little. But anyhow, your home life is geared to some really intense energies. You're going to have to keep your wits about you. You're going to have to manage people on all fronts there, and that gets more and more intense up till the 2nd. On the 4th, Mercury moves out of its position there in the 7th house into the 8th house of intimacy, shared resources and deeper research. That's not bad because it's its own sign, and usually Mercury in the 8th house, which it is here, is very good for giving you some name and fame. So you can actually do something that becomes noteworthy and worthwhile of mention, possibly in your work, even within this family arena. The nice thing is that when Mercury moves into this 8th house, it is supportive of this explosive sort of combination there in the lower part of your horoscope, the domestic area, your peace of mind. That can give you a way out through peaceful negotiation, intelligent communication, thoughtful dialogue with the people that are involved there on the home front. That may also have to do with your relationships, because this 8th house is the resources you share with your nearest and dearest. If it's a business partnership, that's equally applicable to that domain. Now, the 12th is important. There's a full moon that's going to take place in your sun sign, along with a simultaneously moving Venus here into your 7th house of relationships. So this axis here, what we call the 1-7 axis, is all about your relationships, whereas you've had this somewhat restrictive Saturnian influence. I think the full moon here is going to bring a whole new dynamic into your relationships. Venus is going to help that along as well. But please note that as Venus transits further and further into the sign, this is probably more for the September reading, there's going to be a bit of a cooling off here in this area. And Venus will also move into an inimical sign. The sign of Leo is not so great here, but generally Western astrologers say that the 7th house is fortified by the presence of Venus. It brings love, understanding, a more sort of demonstrative period, social period between you and your partner. So that's all really, really good. And then we see the transit of the sun out of here, 7th house into the 8th house, following there on the Mercury heels, again adding more dynamic strength to this 8th house. That's going to be further augmented by the final transit I want to talk about, which is the new moon. Definitely a new chapter beginning in the way you negotiate with your loved ones, the way you enter into partnerships, and also a look at your finances. That's the money that is shared, the money that's loaned to you. This could be banking, finance. It does have some connection to the 5th house here, which is investment, because Mercury is the ruler of this 5th house and the 8th house. So investment that is supported by bank loans and negotiations and contracts, that is also strongly on the cards for you, especially towards the end of the month, with that new dynamic new moon ushering in a new phase of your life. Pop on over to astrology.com.au. I always mention it. I'd always love you to do it. Get some more information on what's happening this month and for the rest of the year. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a message. I love hearing from you all. I love you all. I love you next month too, when I'll be back here, same time, same channel. Take care, Aquarius. Bye-bye for now.